Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. And today I am going to be talking about my gastroparesis story. Before I get into the video, there's a couple things that I want to say. The first being that I had initially not planned this, but because of how long it took to film my whole story, I'm going to split it up into 3 different parts. So what you're watching right now is going to be part 1, and part 1 is going to consist of kind of what gastroparesis is about and my story leading up to the diagnosis, so kind of what I went through and how I was diagnosed. And then part 2 is going to be from the time I was diagnosed and then like all the medications and treatments I've tried up until my surgery. And then part 3 is going to be my surgery and how I'm doing now today. And I also get my boyfriend's opinion and thoughts on what I went through. So those are going to be the 3 different parts. You're watching the one today, the next one will go up Sunday, and then the following one will go up the next Wednesday. I will also be adding a lot of extra clips in here and there, like from this angle, because there is a lot that I forgot, which I kind of predicted because the story consists of so much that I did forget to mention some things. And then also some things I said I didn't like how it came across, so I just need to kind of further expand on what I was trying to say. And I will also have timestamps down below in the description, so if you want to come back or skip to certain parts of the video where you want to learn more information about them, those will be down below as well. So let's get into the video. Just a warning, this video is going to be a very long video because my story took place over the span of like 2.5 years, but I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible, but it is going to be long. I'm just going to share my story and my experience with what I went through. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. When I tell you about the treatments and stuff that I did to help or try to help my gastroparesis, I'm not trying to say that it's gonna work for you as well. It might help, but I don't want you guys to like think I'm telling you to do this to help you get better. I just want to share my story and you guys can take from it what you want to take from it. And I just want to do this to help other people who may be suffering with this or any other kind of GI disease or just any other kind of chronic illness in general, just to, I don't know, maybe like inspire or help you guys find peace in what you're going through, or maybe find some new treatments or kind of understand your body, and maybe encourage you guys to share your story so that way more people know about it. The more we raise awareness about our conditions, the more attention that's brought to them and the more treatment options there's going to be, the more people are going to understand. It's just going to be better if, you know, more people know about it, because like I said, it just opens up more possibilities for treatments and compassion. In this video, I'm going to try to insert some pictures and videos of my experience as over the 2.5 years when I went through all this. I just wanted to come in and say that most pictures are going to be in the second video because I didn't really document much before the diagnosis. And then I'll also try to post some links down below on resources that are related to gastroparesis and that may help you. And I'm going to try to cover everything, but I might forget some stuff, but I'm just going to do my best because like I said, a lot happened. This disease is complicated and different in every person, so it's just a little chaotic, but I'm going to do my best. The first thing that I want to talk about is what is gastroparesis. So gastroparesis is delayed gastric emptying. The word itself means paralyzed stomach, but it's not fully paralyzed. I mean, in some people it might be fully paralyzed, but for me it's just delayed. So that means when the food gets to your stomach, something is wrong and your stomach doesn't contract and push the food forward, so it kind of just sits in your stomach for a while, and that's what leads to the symptoms. And everybody's symptoms are different. I'm going to tell you the main symptoms that I had. My main symptom was nausea. That was the worst symptom for me. I was nauseous all the time. All the time. I could never get away from it. It was just always there, always lingering, and no matter what I would do, it wouldn't go away. To kind of help understand where I was, I would rate my nausea like on a scale of 0 to 10, just like you would for pain. And obviously the nausea for me got worse after I ate, but sometimes it would just get bad out of nowhere and I would just be stuck in bed because it just felt like I was gonna throw up. The nausea a lot of times felt like you feel right before you throw up. I personally never threw up because I have this, I guess, aversion to to throwing up, so my body literally physically does not let me throw up. You may not understand that concept unless you also have like the aversion to it. So I never threw up, but if I did not have the aversion, I would definitely be throwing up a lot. So that's another one of the main symptoms. I know this vomit aversion thing might be a little bit confusing, but I just wanted to explain that I will vomit if something is really wrong. So that is usually a signal for my body that there's something else more that's going on. I don't know what else to say about it, but like, yes, I have vomited before. Like, for example, the last time I threw up was when I had a head injury, so because of that I threw up. Other symptoms that I had was like loss of appetite, so I was hardly ever hungry. And then I also, when I would eat, I would get full very quickly, so even after a couple bites I'd be full. Also, a really bad symptom I had was bloating. I didn't have bloating to begin with, but further on in my progression with gastroparesis, my bloating got so bad. Like, I would definitely have a bunch of pictures to show you guys, but I looked pregnant, and it would hurt. Like, you could feel your stomach or like the skin stretching, and you could not walk or move. It just hurt so bad, so that was not fun. Oh, and another symptom that I did have was weight loss as well. Not everyone experiences weight loss. Some people actually experience weight gain. It's completely variable, so like I said, I just want to share my experience, but other people might have different symptoms. Some people also have pain. I was lucky enough to never have pain in my stomach, but some people do. I forgot to mention 2 more symptoms of gastroparesis, and those can be either constipation or diarrhea. You can have one or the other, or you can have both, and I personally had constipation. I never had diarrhea. And one thing that I did forget to talk about when going over like what gastroparesis is what causes it. So there's 2, I guess, main causes of gastroparesis, and one that is diabetes, and which I don't have, and the other one is idiopathic, which means they don't know what causes it, which is the one that I had. So they could not find a reason to why my stomach emptying was delayed. Some other causes are you get a viral infection, and for some reason after that viral infection your stomach does not empty. That one usually goes away within like 1 to 2 years. Another cause is surgery. So after a surgery they damage your vagus nerve, which is responsible for your digestion system. I know some other causes are Parkinson's, EDS, MS. I know there's more, but those are kind of the main causes. I guess right now I'll just tell you what kind of tests you can take to get diagnosed with gastroparesis. You'll hear more about my experience with those tests when I go through my story, but the main test that you will get to get your diagnosis is a gastric emptying scan. Usually it's 4 hours, and you eat a meal and they take scans at, like, when you first get it, maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and 4 hours, and they see how fast the food empties. I personally had an egg sandwich and they put the radioactive like powder or whatever so that way they could see. Another new test is called the SMART pill, and that's a pill that you swallow and you see how long it takes to go from pretty much when you swallow it all the way out. Kind of along with your gastric emptying scan, you'll also get some other tests to rule out obstruction, like a barium swallow, where you swallow this nasty solution and they watch it go through your intestines to make sure there's nothing like blocking the way. So the main test though is like the gastric emptying scan. That's usually what doctors will give you to see if you have this condition. Since I'm kind of giving you an overview, I'll talk about the treatments real quick as well. There's not that many treatments. There's a couple pills that people try. So there's Reglan, but that has very bad side effects. I never chose to take that because I did not want to take the risk of the side effects. So I'm not saying that everyone who takes Reglan will have the side effect, and I know it does help a lot of people, but I discussed this medication with my doctor, and because I'm young and I would be on this medication long term if I took it, and the risk of side effects increase with long-term use, we just decided it's just best not to use it altogether. You can even get side effects after using it only for a short time too, but it just depends on the person. So that's why I personally chose not to take it, especially since there were other treatment options offered for me, so I wanted to try those first. However, choosing a medication is always based on individual scenarios and under the discussion with your doctor. So if you take Reglan and it works for you, go ahead, like, keep taking it. Do what's best for you and what you and your doctor have decided, but this was just my personal opinion. Like, I personally just didn't feel comfortable taking it, but I know that I took other medications that could possibly have bad side effects too, but for some reason I just felt more comfortable taking those. It's all a personal preference, so I'm not trying to, like, I don't know, say you should take this or you shouldn't take that. I just want to express how I felt about it and how other people may feel about it, and if you don't feel like that and you're taking the medication, go ahead, keep taking it as long as your doctor says it's okay. So I just don't want want to influence you on whether you should or should not take a medication. There's a drug called domperidone, which is not available in the US, so you have to get it through a pharmacy in Canada. I personally had that one. I'll tell you my experience with that drug. There is also erythromycin. I also tried that. I'll tell you my experience about that too. I also tried a drug called bethanocol, but I think most doctors don't prescribe that. I don't know why mine did. Didn't work for me. There may be a couple other drugs, but those are just, I know, the main ones that people try. There are a couple other medications that I forgot to mention, and those are antiemetics. I don't know why I forgot to mention those because I did take those. I took Zofran. That was kind of my main one. There's also a drug called Phenergan. I never took that personally. I had one dose in the hospital when I stayed in the hospital for a little bit, and I did not like how it made me feel. It kind of made me feel like foggy, and I didn't really, it just felt weird, so I didn't like that. But I know it does not happen to everybody. So if that works for you, go ahead, keep taking it. Once again, I don't want to like influence you on the medications that you want to take. I'm just kind of educating on the different types of medications, and then if something happened to me while taking it. And then there's also a scopolamine patch that goes behind your ear. I know that does help for a lot of people, but for me, it like dilated my eyes, and it made my vision like super blurry. It's like after you went to the eye doctor and you had your eyes dilated. That's exactly what happened to me, so I just couldn't take it, obviously, because I don't want blurry vision. Oh, I also tried a drug called Tygan. I didn't have any side effects, but I don't know if there is much of a difference for me. But antiemetics are another class of drugs that you can take along with this. And in addition, I know a lot of people do have acid reflux with their gastroparesis, so antacids such as like famotidine, ranitidine, pantoprazole, omeprazole, stuff like that, those can be taken as well. And then there's certain like surgical procedures. They actually do Botox in your stomach. Personally, never got that done, but that is an option. And then there is other surgeries called the GPOEM, which I had, and I'll tell you about that. And the pyloroplasty. I don't know if I'm forgetting any, but I think those are the main treatments for gastroparesis. Another big treatment that I forgot to mention was a gastric stimulator. So that's something that goes in your stomach. I don't know the exact mechanisms of it. I can link an article down below about it, but that is also a surgery that a lot of people have. And then if you need supplemental nutrition, a lot of people have feeding tubes or TPN. I think that's a good overview so far with what gastroparesis is. Now I guess I'll go into my story. My story actually starts around the time Hurricane Irma hit Florida. So everything was like, you know, I personally wasn't that affected by the hurricane, thank goodness. We did lose power, and because we lost power, my boyfriend had power, and I stayed over at his house with his family for a couple days. And on one of the days, I was playing Super Smash Brothers with my boyfriend, his brother, and my boyfriend's friend. And we were just playing. We finished dinner like an hour before. I think I just had fried rice. Nothing big, nothing weird, nothing different. And we were just playing Super Smash Brothers, and I was sitting on the floor. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just got this really strong nausea. Like, so strong, where I was like I was fine, and then all of a sudden I felt like I was gonna throw up, like right there. And for me, like I said, I have the aversion to throwing up, so I was freaking out because whenever that happens, like my anxiety is through the roof. I start shaking because I just hate the feeling of nausea. And I try not to like worry my boyfriend, so I kind of just get up and like go try to find Tums or Pepto-Bismol, but I couldn't find it, so I asked him. He's like, "You're okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, like my stomach's just a little weird. I'm just gonna take this and I should be fine." So I took it, trying to stay as calm as possible. Like I'm trying to tell myself, calm down, you're not gonna throw up, you're not gonna throw up, you're fine. And I took the medicine, I sat back down, and then I tried to like push through it, but it was not going away. It was so bad. So I got up and I like started like, I think, tearing up. I went in his bedroom and just laid down, and I was shaking and I was cold. I had no idea where this came from, what was happening, and I just laid there. And that's where I spent the rest of the night. He went to go get a thermometer for me just to make sure I wasn't running a temperature, and I took my temperature and it was fine, but nothing was working. Like I was just so nauseous and it wasn't going away. And so I just spent the night in his bed by myself and I just laid there. I hardly got any sleep because the nausea was so bad, and I spent a lot of the night just over the bed because I just couldn't lay down, obviously, because if I laid down, I felt like I was gonna throw up more, and if I did throw up, I didn't want to be like on my back. So I spent a lot of night just like kind of sitting up. It was an awful experience. And then sometimes I felt super close, so I went to go sit in the bathroom for a little bit. The whole night I just was in and out of sleep, in and out of the bedroom and the bathroom. And then the next morning, still there, I decided to go home, and just because I wanted to be home when I'm sick, I don't know, I just want to be home. I still didn't have power, so it was kind of hot, and it was just not an ideal situation, but I just, you know that feeling when you're sick and you kind of just want to be in your own house. So I went home, stayed in my bed, and the nausea never went away. Never. Like, it was at a 10 this whole time, and nothing was helping. Like, it was not going away. I couldn't eat anything, I couldn't drink anything, I just lay there. So that nausea lasted for like a week. It was terrible. Sometimes I couldn't even talk, I couldn't even like look at a screen, I couldn't watch TV because it was so bad. And I was just so confused because I was like, where is this coming from? Like, why is it not going away? I was literally for a week just in bed the whole week, either just laying there because I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't go on my phone, I couldn't do anything. So I just sat there, laid there, and just cried because I just wanted it to go away. Being nauseous is like my worst nightmare. Eventually, it kind of went away. Not went away, but it got better to the point where I could function. So like, I still had nausea, I still wasn't hungry. Things were improving, but it still wasn't getting better, and I was still just confused. I was like, why? Like, what's going on? So I believe at this point, I started going to the doctor. And when I say like, I believe, I think, I don't remember all the exact timelines. I didn't write everything down. Everything kind of just blurred together. So I tried to like go through my phone and figure out when certain things happened. So this is the best estimate of what happened in my life. To give like an age range, I was starting my fall semester of sophomore year in college. But yeah, so I started to go to the doctor. I obviously started with primary care and was like, okay, like, what's going on? They're like, okay, we'll run labs. And then they ran labs. And I was like, please just let there be something in the lab that tells me what is wrong with me. Like, I just want to know. Like, I just need to know so I can fix it. And so I went to the doctor, got labs, came back normal. Not everything was normal. I was okay. That's what the labs looked like. And they're like, oh, I really don't know what's wrong with you. And I feel like my primary care may have ran a couple other tests, but those all came back normal. And then she gave me a referral for GI. So I got an appointment with the GI, but between school and their scheduling, it was scheduled out like a couple weeks. So in the meantime, I decided to go to the ENT because I have always had problems with my ears. As a kid, I would get ear infections all the time. So I had tubes in my ears. At this point, I had tubes in my ears. So I wanted to check with the ENT because I just wanted to make sure everything was okay with that as well. So I went to the ENT and he ordered an MRI and then another test where they check your equilibrium, where like you lay down, I think with your eyes closed or something, or like you wear like goggles over your eyes. I don't remember the exact test, but they put things in your ear and they test your equilibrium. And all of that was normal. And I was just so frustrated because nothing was happening. Like, nothing was pointing to what was wrong. At this point too, I still did not eat that much. So I think I lost about 10 pounds. And at this point, like I said, I was still in college. So I was trying to, you know, go through all of my classes. I had a tutoring job. The way that my tutoring worked was I kind of helped in a class. So there was a class that was happening. They did their work on a computer. So we were in a computer lab and someone lectured on the lesson for the day. And then while the teacher lectured, I wrote the problems out on the board so everyone could see. Once the lecture was over, I'd go around and help students with understanding the problems and doing the problems with them. And I remember one day I was trying to write the problems on the board and that nausea came back so bad again, and I literally felt like I was gonna throw up. Like, I was pale and I was like just trying to make it through the lesson, and I made it through like the teaching lesson, but I was literally like hunched over, like just pure like panic on my face. And I was like, I need to go. And I just grabbed my stuff and I told my boss, I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I need to go. Like, I'm way too sick. I need to leave. And I just left and I had someone come pick me up. That night, me and my parents decided to go to the ER because we didn't want to wait anymore for the GI appointment because I was just really bad. I wasn't expecting much, but for me, I just needed to know. I just needed to try something else. They gave me some fluids, which was good. I think they said I had a UTI because there was bacteria in my urine, but I'm pretty sure it was like barely bacteria, just like the ones where you get cross-contaminated if you don't collect the sample correctly. Okay, so I realized this may have came across as kind of like I was acting like the doctor didn't know what he was doing, but the reason why I used quotations was because I had no other symptoms of a UTI, and I'm like 99% positive that when he came out and told me I had a UTI, he was like, so there was a little bacteria in your urine, so I think we're just gonna try treating you for a UTI and see if that helps. So they gave me antibiotics and they sent me home. So I was like, okay. I mean, in my head, I wanted to believe them so bad. So like, I convinced myself to believe them and to say once I took these antibiotics, I would be fixed. After the ER trip, I don't really know honestly what happened after that. But I started to get a little better. And I also decided to stop eating dairy because I felt like dairy was making things worse. So I gave up dairy completely, and for some reason, like, my symptoms started to get better after I gave up dairy, and I was good. Like, it went away and I was like, okay, I just won't eat dairy and I'm okay. And my symptoms got better, which is weird. And for the next several months, I was actually okay, and I believe I was living just my normal life. I don't remember my diet. I don't know if I was eating the same amount as I used to, but I was okay. So I was like, okay, whatever that was, it went away. And I ended up canceling my GI appointment because I was like, okay, like, I'm fine. I'm overreacting. I don't need to go. So I did not go because by the time my appointment was coming, I was fine. That weird couple months of my life just went away. And it went away, I think, in December of that year, so December 2017. And I was good all the way up until almost exactly a year later. The date that I have written down is between like October and November of 2018. So now I am in my first semester of nursing school. So I started nursing school my junior year of college. So it is now fall of my junior year of college, or my first year in nursing school. And everything was okay for the first couple months. And then I remember I was sitting in lecture. It was about 1 to 2 hours after I ate. I was just sitting in lecture taking notes, and all of a sudden that big wave of nausea hit me. And I immediately panicked for like 5 different reasons, because I was like, one, the nausea. Like I said, I hate it. I can't deal with the nausea. It felt like I was going to throw up right there. And I was like, oh my God. And then I remembered, I was like, it's coming back. It is back and I don't know what to do. And I was just distraught. I was panicking, but I'm like, I need to make it through lecture. I don't want to miss class. This is my first semester of nursing school. It's so stressful and I just did not want to miss class. So I was sitting there like sweating and like almost tearing up because I was so nauseous. And I was like, nope, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. I need to leave class. So I started recording the lecture, and then I got up and I left to go to the bathroom. And for me, I never go to the bathroom during class because I don't like the attention being brought to me at all. So like when I get up, I just feel like everyone's staring at me, everyone's judging at me. So for me to go to the bathroom in the middle of class was a huge deal for me, but I could not take it any longer. So I like put my phone down, I was recording the lecture so I wouldn't miss anything, and then I left. And I walked out and I went to the bathroom, and I was like walking. So you know how like when you're, I don't know if you guys walk like this when you're nauseous, but when you're nauseous, you kind of hunch over and you're just like, you know, I don't know. But I made it to the bathroom and I just kind of sat, like, I didn't want to like lean or be on my knees over the toilet. So I kind of just sat on the toilet and was like just straight panicking. And I stayed there until I was like 98% positive I was not going to throw up. And then eventually I came back to class and I tried to sit through, this lecture was I think like 3 hours long. So I tried to sit through the rest of the lecture and I made it. And as soon as lecture was over, I got up and I booked it out of class. And it's on the 6th floor, and then there's elevators, but there's 120 of us. So usually I go down the stairs because not all of us can find the elevator. And then I didn't want to be in the elevator because I don't know, like I didn't want to be trapped in an elevator nauseous, like compacted with a bunch of people. So my only other choice was to go down like 6 flights of stairs. So I walked down the stairs as carefully and calmly as I could. And then I booked it out the door into the parking lot, and as soon as like I got out of the parking lot, I like dry heaved, and I was like literally like tears going down my eyes, like almost vomited in front of everybody in the parking lot. And I was like, nope, but I held it, and then I went to my car, and I had a plastic bag like next to me, and I just drove home. And as soon as I got home, I took Tom's and I went to go lay down. I tried to like not panic because I was trying to convince myself as well that the same thing was not happening. I'm like, this is not happening again. This can't be true. And then I went to go lay down. I'm like, this is gonna go away. I'm okay. I took my temperature. This time it was like a low grade fever, like 99.7. And I was like, see, like it's just some virus. It's gonna go away. Like I'm gonna be fine. And later that night, I remember I started feeling a little better. So I'm like, oh, see, like I'm okay, I'm fine. But I was not fine. It was up and down, but it was definitely still present. I was still nauseous all the time, wasn't eating much. And so this time I decided to start going back to the doctor. And I chose a different primary care physician this time, not because my other one was bad, but because I wanted to see if a different primary care physician had something else to offer. It was in the same clinic, but just a different one. So I made an appointment with another primary care physician, and he saw me, and I was like, I'm nauseous. There's nothing really else other than that. At this point, it was pretty much only nauseous and obviously like no appetite. And when I would eat, I'd get full really fast. And I was like, what is it? Like, why am I just nauseous? It doesn't make sense. And he was like, so do you ever feel like you regurgitate a little bit? And I was like, thinking about it, I'm like, I think so. Like, I think I do. And he's like, do you feel gassy? I'm like, yeah, like I do. He's like, okay, you have GERD. So here's some antacids. And so I was put on, I think I was put on famotidine first, and then later I put on pantoprazole. And I was given that, and they're like, here, try that for a couple weeks, see what happens, come back to me if it doesn't get any better. So I took that, and I remember feeling a little bit better, but still something was like, I just knew something else was wrong. Like something was wrong. And I was losing weight again. I forgot to mention that obviously when I was eating normal, I gained my 10 pounds back and I was a normal weight. But then I started to lose weight again. And obviously he was getting concerned because I was getting pretty light. And then eventually he gave me an appetite stimulant to try to help me gain weight. And I remember that working for like a week maybe. And then I just started to get nauseous again and I wasn't getting any weight. There was something wrong, but then I also was dismissing it. I was like, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe there isn't anything wrong with me because no one's finding anything. I was starting to doubt myself. I was getting really frustrated. There's nothing, like I've gotten all these tests, but nothing shows that anything is wrong. And I was like, is this really just in my head? Am I never going to get a diagnosis? Like, is no one really gonna understand like what's going on with me? And so I went through the rest of my first semester of nursing school just and it sucked because I was nauseous, but I made it through. One of the components of nursing school you have to do is clinical, so you have to go to different settings and practice nursing skills, obviously. And this first semester I was in long-term care, which is a nursing home. And so being nauseous and having to change like poop diapers, not a good combination. And the rooms were hot and stuffy, and it was not a good experience to go through all of that. Once I got through nursing school, or the first semester of nursing school, my body kind of recognized that, and then it kind of just gave up. And then I fell into that really bad nausea state again, where for a week I was just wiped out, where I was so nauseous I couldn't eat, sleep, watch TV, anything, and I just laid there. So I went through that again. I'm not gonna go through about how bad it was again because it was bad. It was just like, it was the first time, was not eating. My primary care didn't really do anything about it, so I asked him, I was like, please give me a referral to the GI. I need to figure it out, like I need to. And so I got the referral for the GI, but this was in December now, so I could not get an appointment until after the holidays. I had to wait until early January to get an appointment. But after the week of terrible nausea, I came out of it and I was okay. I would shortly be starting my second semester of nursing school, so my spring semester of my junior year. And in mid-January, I had my first appointment with my GI. And the way my GI clinic was ran is there's a GI doctor and then a nurse practitioner that works with him. So I saw the nurse practitioner and she was awesome. She sat with her notepad and she listened to every single thing that I said. She wrote it down and she was like, we're going to figure it out. And I was like, thank goodness. And the first step was to get an endoscopy. And this part was also delayed because I was in, like I said, I was in nursing school, so I had to work around my schedule. My schedule was very busy with classes because I had classes twice a week and clinicals twice a week, and then I worked at Kohl's on Saturday. So the only 2 days I had off was Sunday and Tuesday. And I needed those days to catch up on homework and just to maintain some sanity. And soon Tuesdays became my doctor's appointment days. I've written down, it was February 26th, I had my endoscopy. And I was like, please let there be something wrong. I know that sounds so weird to say, but I just wanted finally to find something that was wrong with me. So I was put under and came out, and I was like, please let there be something wrong. And the doctor came by and he was like, everything looks normal. And I was like, oh my God, like when is this gonna happen? And at this point, like I was beginning to think that it was all in my head because nothing was coming up. I was like, what is happening to me? But luckily the doctor had a next step. Okay, one thing I want to touch on first is what they were looking for in the endoscopy is any like ulcerations or inflammation, if there was food left over in your stomach. That's kind of the stuff they're looking for in the endoscopy. And then they also took biopsies to check for H. pylori and celiacs and to see if there was anything else wrong. But all that stuff came back normal for me too. Like my stomach, endoscopy, everything was beautiful. So the next step that I did was order a gastric emptying scan. That's pretty much all he said. He goes, here, just call this number, schedule that, and that's your next step. That's the next test. He didn't really explain what that test was for, but I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll call. And I scheduled the appointment, but I could not get it until April 4th. So I had to go through a whole month and a half of waiting too. And at this point, my symptoms, they were okay. Like I was nauseous, but it wasn't terrible. I was still able to go through nursing school and do my clinicals and make it through. Like it was not fun, but it was not terrible. Like it wasn't terrible to the point where I was in bed. So I was just struggling to make it through. I wasn't eating much. I think I was a little bit lighter as well. I don't think I was quite 10 pounds lighter, but maybe like seven-ish pounds lighter. And in the meantime, I actually went on YouTube one day and I had this video recommended for me, and it said like, what is gastroparesis, or like living with gastroparesis or something like that. I can't remember the exact video, but I saw that come up and I don't know, something drew me to it. And I watched it, and it was someone explaining like what it is and what they go through with it. And I was like, oh my God. Like that sounds exactly what I'm going through. And that's also why I wanted to make this video too, is because maybe I can be that person for you. But I remember seeing that video and I was like, that's my exact symptoms. Like, oh my God, that's it. And I was like, okay. And then I realized that the test that I would be taking next, the gastric emptying, would be testing for that. So I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm there. And like, since I saw that video, there were like also weird occurrences where gastroparesis would come up. And I can't remember the exact ones, like the exact instances that happened, but I just remember they happened. I'm like, this is weird, like it's a sign. And one of the signs was actually in one of my clinicals, I got assigned a patient, and the patient had gastroparesis. And I was like, out of all the patients in this hospital, and then I also was in a group with like 7 other people, and I was the person who got the patient with gastroparesis. I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, okay, this is a sign. Like, I feel like this is what I have. And then April 4th came around and I took the gastric emptying test. It was on a Tuesday, and I remember I had a test the next day, and this test was 4 hours long. And I was like, oh my God. So like stress through the roof. Okay, so this part was confusing. What I was trying to say was I had the gastric emptying scan on Tuesday, and I had a school exam the next day. So I was studying for the school exam while taking the gastric emptying test. So I was kind of just stressed out while I was there because I had to sit through this 4-hour-long test and then study for a school test that would be happening the next day. That's what I was trying to say. So I went there, ate the eggs, and then I took the scans like 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and 4 hours. And in between the tests, or in between the scans, I would just sit and I would study. And then once the test was done, I just went home and I had to wait for the results. And I remember panicking there because I was like, wow, I actually feel pretty good this day. I felt pretty good, and I felt hungry after the 4 hours, and I was like, no, like this has to be it. This has to be the test, because I want this to be over. I want someone to find what's wrong with me. So I was really upset. I left that upset as well because I was convinced that I was not going to be okay and that no one was ever going to find anything wrong with me. So I realize this may be confusing as to why I wanted a positive test. I wanted a positive test because I wanted to figure out what was wrong with me. I didn't want a positive test because I didn't want gastroparesis. Trust me, I don't want it, did not want it, don't want anybody to have it. Like, it's an awful, awful disease or illness or whatever it's classified as. It's just like, I guess you kind of understand if you've ever had something go on with you for so long and no doctors have ever figured it out, you kind of just want an answer. I don't know, you just want an answer so that way you can maybe help figure out how to help you and how to make things better. But it was going to bring me more comfort to find an answer rather than to not find one, if you know what I mean, because then we just have no options. Like I said, this diagnosis, it sucked, but because I got diagnosed and because I was able to find doctors who were able to treat this condition, I was able to get better. So that is why I wanted a positive diagnosis, if that makes sense. And I just want to give a shout out to my boyfriend. Throughout this whole process, he was there with me every step of the way, never doubted me, was always fighting for me, would always research and try to figure out what was wrong with me, would just build me up and try to help me in every way possible. And he was like my biggest support system through all that. So I just have to thank him for always, you know, helping me have the confidence to go to the doctor's appointments and to kind of fight for myself. But yeah, so I took the test and then I had to wait 2 weeks. No, not 2 weeks, like 10 days on April 15th. I remember I had class, and after class, I drove to the doctor's office and sat down. He sat down, he goes, okay, I have the results of your gastric emptying scan. And so he was like, at 1 hour, you're supposed to empty 10% and you emptied 11%. So I was like, okay, so normal. And then he went at the 2 hour mark, he was like, you're supposed to empty this much. I can't remember the exact amount, but my amount was just like 1% below that. And he goes, at 4%, you're supposed to empty 90% of your food. Your stomach only emptied 66%. So I was like, oh my God. In that moment, like, I realized, I'm like, this is what I have. I have a diagnosis. I finally have a diagnosis. He goes, that is consistent with gastroparesis, and based on the percentage system, I retained 34% of my food after 4 hours, so that'd be considered moderate to severe. So he's like, you have moderate to severe gastroparesis. So I just want to come in here and say that symptoms are the most important part. It doesn't necessarily matter if you classify as severe, moderate, or mild. It's what you're feeling that matters the most. So really, it doesn't matter that I was classified as severe, because I personally, when I was initially diagnosed, I didn't think I had symptoms that classified as severe. I mean, it's all kind of subjective, but don't get too caught up if you're diagnosed with mild and you feel awful. It's all about what you feel, not whether it's severe or not. Test results aren't everything. Go based on what you feel and treat how you feel. And I was like, okay. I remember saying like, yep, I expected that. And he didn't really say much about it after that. He was just like, oh, eat small meals, don't have a lot of fiber, I'll give you some Zofran. And then he decided to start me on erythromycin. I actually think it was azithromycin. It was this liquid, this pink liquid that I had to take 3 times a day. So he just gave me that, and that was it. And I remember leaving the doctor's office happy. I was like, oh my God, I have a diagnosis. I'm so excited. This treatment's gonna work. I am going to be okay. Like, this is great. I'm gonna be okay. Long story short, I wasn't. So thank you for watching part 1 of my gastroparesis story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you in some way. And please leave any questions or comments down below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Like I said, there's links down below to hopefully help you if you need any help, and there are timestamps if you want to go back or jump to certain parts that you want to hear again. And yeah, so stay tuned for part 2 coming out on Sunday. And once again, that will be about the different medications that I've tried and how I was doing up until my surgery. And it also includes how I ended up staying in the hospital for a week and ended up with a feeding tube. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!